stepping inside the principal's office, building community with the right synergy. Stepping.
A lot of times this topic comes up with leaders, it's either met with
it's a safe place to be, where leaders can be free. Come learn new lessons.
Gap is closing.
Feel free to ask a question. Inside the principal's office.
I mean, are you guys principals or middle school students?
Inside the principal's office.
Good morning to all of you. Thank you for stepping inside the principal's office. Good morning. My name is Michael McWilliams. All of my friends call me Mac, and I am so excited to be back again today inside the principal's office with my co-host, Charles Williams. This is a unique community of leaders, aspiring leaders, people in education. We're glad that you're here. Do yourself a favor, do your friends a favor. If you are on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, YouTube, if you would please share and let other leaders know that that this community is here, and we want you to come in and join today. Again, I'm Mac. I'm one half of the team here at Inside the Principal's Office. I'm a career principal. Guess what, guys? I just finished my 20th year as an elementary school principal. And after 2 decades in the principal seat, I really understand the power of the seat and the influence, and I'm uniquely attuned to the challenges of leadership. And we want to talk about that in this environment, not just today, but every time that we come together. I want to talk to this guy because my kids are out. He's still in the building with kids, I believe. Bless his heart. All the way from Chicago. Would you please welcome Charles?
Hey, Matt, good morning. I think we have to add a certain segment here. Like whenever you come back onto the show, like we got to have that return of the Mac.
Cool. I'll take it.
So good morning. And Mac is correct. I still have another week with students, and then we roll right into summer school. So then we have another 3 weeks. And so, yeah, unfinished business, right? That's what we do. It just keeps going. But as Mac said, my name is Charles Williams, and not only am I the principal of a K-8 building here in Chicago, I am also the host of the Counter Narrative podcast, founder of CW Consulting, and probably my most favorite aspect is this, co-hosting this show with Mac, because it allows me to be in this space with educational leaders from all over. We've had individuals not just from here in the States, but from all around the globe as we connect and learn and grow together. And today is no different. Today we have 2 amazing guests with us. One gentleman who has been behind the scenes watching us, and he's joining us. I know he just popped out, but I'm sure he'll be back in just a moment. And then we have Bethany with us, somebody who I've had the pleasure of sharing space with, in the edu Twitter sphere, and finally able to connect here. And so while John is taking care of his business, Bethany, I'm going to turn it over to you. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are in this field.
All right. Good morning. My name is Bethany Hill, and I am here. I'm here in Arkansas, Central Arkansas, right outside of Little Rock. I have been a teacher, an instructional coach, assistant principal, and now currently serve as a retention and recruitment specialist at a local educational cooperative in my state. And so I do a lot of PD for new teachers. I support them in their first 3 years. And thankfully, I have a state who really focuses in on the development of teachers in that first 3 years. So there's a lot of coaching and mentoring that goes on. And it's not a judgmental, evaluative period of time in their career. They don't have to be evaluated until later on in their fourth year. So they have that time to grow and develop. And so it's been a big transition, leaving a building and being, with students and a school family to this. But I've really enjoyed it. And I can definitely sympathize and empathize and have a lot of compassion for school leaders right now, because I think this year was harder than last year, just looking from the outside now. And so I applaud you all for being in the trenches still and continuing that, because the principal is always good. That role is always going to be near and dear to my heart, for sure.
Well, thank you, Bethany. I appreciate you being in this space. And again, if you are joining us this morning, please let us know that you're here. Yes, there are 4 spaces here on this screen, but we have this network in this community, and we love to know that you are here. So please hop in, say good morning, let us know that you're here. And of course, join us throughout the conversation today by dropping your ideas and your questions. John, welcome back. Good morning, sir. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
My name is John Hurick. I am in my 17th year in education and wrapping up my first year as an assistant principal. So I was
Congratulations.
Thank you. I made it. I was a math teacher for 14 years and had some other administrative experience before becoming an official assistant principal. So I'm glad to be here this morning. Thank you for the invite.
Well, not a problem. I know Mac said he wrapped up, I think, 27 years, right? This was like my 27th year on the planet.
Oh, wow. Is that an old joke?
Ouch.
You calling me old? Don't let the silver flakes in my hair fool you, little boy. Oh,
I have to go now. I'm saying goodbye.
Not at all.
I'm excited about today. I'm excited about John because he's someone that I've watched his trajectory of his career from teacher to assistant principal. And I am so very proud of him. And I'm ready to learn from Miss Bethany, this whole idea of supporting teachers for 3 years and not giving them an evaluation with labels and scores to the 4th. That is just like very interesting to me. So
I think that's a future
I'm
episode.
talk about the subject today, but I know that this is the beginning of a connection that we will continue. Those of you who are familiar with Inside the Principal's Office, this is a discussion show. It is a community. If you are online, we want you to make comments on Facebook, make comments, and we may share some of your thoughts. We may get to answer some of your questions. That is what this is all about. It's about building a safe place for leaders to come, to give advice, and to receive nuggets of wisdom. Our format is this. We have 2 questions that we've planned for today, and we're going to go ahead and jump into our first discussion question of the day.
Inside the Principal's Office Discussion Question 1. After a year of learning, sometimes we fail to stop, assess, document, and share our students' progress with each other. And this information can sometimes be lost over the course of summer break and with staff's transitions. What are some things we can do as we finish the school year to ensure that our teachers and staff have a clear idea of where students are next year?
Wow, that is so very important. And we want Bethany, ladies first. Talk to us about that. What are your thoughts on that? How can we make sure that this is happening on our campuses?
I had some time with year 2 teachers a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about how to finish strong, and most importantly, to have students leave on a really positive note with some memories that they can take with them, that help them look forward to coming back in the fall. And so I think there's so many different ways at this time of year to engage students in different ways while reviewing content at the same time, but also looking at their social emotional development as well, and having kids reflect back on how far they've come, just in that short 9 months of school, or whatever the length is. And so number one, reflection, and having students think back and look at previous work and things like that, their writing, their thinking, and how it's evolved over a year's time, because sometimes it's hard to see that progress. Sometimes it's hard for kids to realize that they really have grown, even if they are still what they would call a struggling learner, or it's still hard for them. So having them realize their progress, I think, is one of the biggest things that we can do for students. But then also using really engaging activities, gamifying, content and things like that to help not only create memories and connection, and have students have fun, and leave on that note, but also to informally assess and spiral back on a few of those essential standards within that content to see where kids are, what they've retained, and then how they can make a plan for communication about that progress or lack thereof in the future to help that next year's teacher figure out where to start with those students. So that's a big thing for me, is to make sure that they leave on a positive note, but also embedding that content within.
Excellent. John, Mr. New Administrator, I know you have lots of fresh ideas about this subject.
For me, in a perfect world, we would get scores back early enough to be able to really break down the data. But looking at common assessment scores, what areas did students do well? What areas do we need to focus on more? Being able to celebrate some of our victories, I think would be a positive thing. It gives everybody a good feeling about going into the next year, knowing what our focus is going to be and how we can attack those things that we may not have done so well in.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I think I've heard the word assessment. I think that is what we do at the end of the year. One of the things that we do on our campus that we have done, we used to have cards and we called them pink and blues. We would fill out our pink and blues, and get this. If you were a boy, you filled out a blue card. If you were a female, very traditional, we would fill out a pink card, pink and blues. And that's how we captured, this is where this kid is at the end of the school year. And then we use those to make the class list for the next year. So we actually looked at, end of the school year data, where they landed, and we used it to make very well balanced classes for the next year. Now we use Google Forms, same information, but just another way to manipulate it. I think that it is very important for teachers to know as they leave for the summer how their children did and how they did in relation to teaching essential standards. Did the kids get it? What kids still need work? And then we most definitely pass that information on to the next teacher so that they don't have to spend the beginning of the year trying to identify where a kid is. You just go to the pink and blues and you get a good summary of where you're going to be able to initially start. So I think that every campus needs to have some formalized system of, I don't think that we can leave that to chance. I think that we have to, in a very formal way, just give each other data. So it's not walking down the hall when you get the class list and saying, I see that Charles is on your class list.
Well, they would only be
talk to his mother a lot. I had Charles and his sister. So it's not that informal. It is give teachers a formal way to talk very factual and address all those things: reading, math, science, writing, and even behavior. What would they say on Charles's behavior? Does not play well with others. Charles, what do you think?
I'm trying, Mac. I'm trying. So, first of all, I just want to say I love this idea of reflection. And I know we talk a lot about like staff, right, teachers, but the idea of having students reflect and be able to share that with their teachers to say, this is where I think I'm at. This is kind of what I see. This is where I'm feeling. This is my confidence level. That's huge, because a lot of times, again, when we interpret, when we try to assume where students are at, we may miss the mark. So hearing that, hey, good morning, Mr. McCurdy. Thank you for joining us. That's one of my 5th grade teachers. So being able to have that capacity for your students to share that information. And as we've said, setting up formalized processes for sharing that information with one another is really big. One of the things that I like to do, and I'm able to do this, we're a smaller school, is we do a lot of looping, and my teachers love it because the idea is that I don't have to spend the first, 6 weeks, 9 weeks, whatever it may be, trying to figure out who these kids are, working through processes and procedures. On day one, we hit the ground running because I know where you were at last year because you were with me. And we just kind of continue that process moving forward. And that has helped out a lot. So I would encourage, organizations out there, schools, that if you have the capacity to maybe look into that. And it's great when you have a really strong teacher and those relationships are there and right, things are working well. Not so great when those things aren't there. We know the impact of a negative teacher or an ineffective teacher in a classroom. So you really don't want to loop that. But I would throw that in there because I don't want to just keep piling on the same things that have been said. But I really like that idea of walking into a space and I know where my kids are. And we said academically, socially, emotionally, just behaviorally, and all of those different aspects. But I would caution teachers. I just want to say this on the other side of that. Be aware of the biases that may come with that, as Mac was just trying to insinuate with me. Beware of that, to be able to say, when that kid walks into my class, I'm going to look at them to say, I'm giving you this is a brand new year. I'm going to allow you to prove yourself to me who you are. I have data. I have anecdotal notes. I have all of this information that help me better help you. But I also want to know who you are, because summer is a long time for some of our students, and a lot of things could have happened during that time frame. And so we want to make sure that we're not coming in and just ignoring all of those things that have transpired over the summer.
Yes.
I think a lot of times also, as human beings, we have a tendency to focus more on the negative, like what didn't go well.
Yeah.
I think that we need to kind of shift that mindset and say, okay, these things did go well. Let's focus more on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know
a lot of people do operate from that deficit mindset of what did we not complete, but look at the growth that has transpired. That's
Yes.
a very important point.
And Mac, I did something similar as a building administrator with cards that just sort of give a snapshot data-wise of the student. And what I always encourage teachers to add at the end, because there was a section for comments or notes, was to think about, what would you want the family of this child to read what's on here? And if the answer is no, then don't write it,
Right.
because that means it's probably an opinion or some type of bias. But if there are specific facts that need to be shared, and sometimes it's even, please just come see me. I need to talk to you about this student, then the next year's teacher knows that communication is there, and as much sharing that can go on between these last year's teachers and this year's teachers to help that student, be able to connect with peers and the new set of staff that's going to be working with them. I think that's so huge. And so if we can leave our bias out of it,
Right.
It's super important to be able to do that.
So as we get ready to transition, I think one of my closing thoughts for this is that, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard this one, but it was a story that I used to share with my teachers. It's the Teddy Stoddard story. You can find it on YouTube. It's old. It's been around for a while. But it's a super powerful story about a teacher who has a young man in her classroom who's not doing well at all, right? And the previous teacher's like, he's doing poorly, and but she takes the time to go back and read all the notes and to see this his kind of journey, and about how he lost his mom and his father struggling, and really feeding on to who he was today, and kind of how that impacted how her perceptions were, and then what she did. So it's a powerful story. I would encourage you to go watch it. Have a box of tissues with you. When we do it with my staff, I literally hand out tissues. It is a tearjerker. But Teddy Stoddard, look it up.
So you cried, Charles? You cried?
Yes, Mac. It is okay for men to cry.
I agree.
I'm just asking questions. No judgment. I just asked, did you cry?
I will say this: the very first time I was a teacher, the very time I saw it, and I did. I mean, you see that, you start thinking about your students, and I'll share a thing. Like, if you start to share it with your staff, I make a point of like finding something to do during, because I can't listen to it because I'll just do it again. So I'm like,
what's his name?
Teddy Stoddard. Teddy Stoddard.
Okay, I'm gonna watch that later today, and I'm gonna call and tell you if I cried.
There you go. There you go. Well, I'll hear it in your voice. No. So before we get into question 2, we're talking about summer here, and we're excited because Mac and I, even though we get to connect like this all the time, we don't get to see each other in person very much. In fact, we've only seen each other in person twice. Maybe you don't realize it, but it's only been twice. So we get to connect again this summer at the NAESP conference. We're really looking forward to that. Mac and I and Rob will be presenting a session on our book inside the principal's office. When we did this back in Dallas, back in February, it was standing room only. So if you're watching and you're thinking about coming out, please do so. Please get there early, unless you want to stand in the hallway and watch from there. Right. It's still a good session, but not as great when you're in the hallway. So definitely come early. Join us, and we are scheduling a networking event that evening. So we are presenting on Friday the 15th. So we'll be happy to connect with you on the 14th at the reception, but then come and hang out with us. In fact, in our room, I'll be there for the session before as well. So I'm presenting twice that day. So I have a session talking about color blindness. This is one of my sessions that is being picked up all across the country. So I'm very excited to be able to continue sharing my story about the problem with color blindness. So I'll be there. So if you really want a front row seat, come to my session then, and then just hang out with us for the second session. You'll get a double dose. So feel free to come and join with us this summer in Louisville. So we are going to get ready for question number 2. I'm trying to keep an eye on our time here. So as Mac mentioned earlier, we have 2 questions lined up. So let's get ready for question number 2.
Inside the principal's office, discussion question 2. As leaders, there are no shortage of goals and objectives that we hope to accomplish each school year, but sometimes gaps emerge and we are unable to accomplish what we set out to do. What is a goal this year that you have not been able to finish? Why? And what are your plans to address this going forward?
This is a great question. I know earlier before the show, we were talking about kind of institutionalizing change, and every time we try to get better at it, like something else happens. And this question, I think, addresses this directly. So, John, I'm going to turn this one over to you first, and then Bethany, feel free to jump in. Oh, we can't hear you, John. John, you're muted. No, you're gone. So Bethany, I'll let you jump in, and then if John gets that, we'll figure it out. No worries, John. No worries.
Yeah. Technology is just wonderful when it works, isn't it?
Yeah, I still see a thing on his name that says he's muted.
Yeah.
Well, something that, and my goals look a little bit different than the building level principal, but my vision for what I'm doing in the mentoring program heavily involves the building level leaders, because I feel like something that I need to work on and try to figure out how to help principals incorporate into their buildings is like a system for new teacher support, because that retention of teachers is super, super important. And one of the number one reasons why teachers leave is lack of support. It's not money. It's not the things that most people would imagine it to be. It's usually because they don't feel supported. And a lot of times that's not necessarily the principal's fault. It's just that a lot of our systems are set up in such a way that the principal manages so many things at one time. And these last couple of years with COVID being, just the way it's influenced our schools and our communities, that has put a huge responsibility on the building leader to manage other things, besides just instruction and being that instructional leader in a building. And so I feel like principals need to have that support built in to systemize a mentoring focus and find time for new teachers to meet with their mentors, work with the schedule creatively, come up with ways that will dedicate and protect time for that new teacher to learn from their colleagues, and to spend time debriefing and reflecting with their mentor. And that, to me, that's one of the biggest ways we could support those new teachers and encourage that retention, and that they don't leave within their first 3 to 5 years, like what's happening now, because the research is showing that after year 3, they tend to leave the profession. And we know the corporate world is really, really targeting teachers right now and recruiting them into their world, because we're so resilient, we're flexible, we adapt easily, we're masters of time management, just all of, and we're great communicators, so it's very appealing and attractive to the corporate world, and they can pay more. Let's be real. And so we want to help teachers stay true to who they are and why they entered the profession. And I think that comes down to that building level principal being able to provide a system for that to happen within their building. And so it's not just something that can just automatically happen for the principal because they have too many things going on, but maybe with some outside support and being able to look from a different lens, outside looking in, I hope there's some way that I can provide support for that principal to be able to make that happen within their buildings, because the teacher leadership aspect of it is huge too. Those mentors, and we build capacity within them, that helps retain our teachers that have been in place for several years and that are so amazing and continue to contribute to the profession. So I think it's a win-win, for the building leader, for a district, for the profession as a whole, to be able to do that.
Well, I love the fact that you pointed out, like, teacher retention is a big thing, but here are these systems, but let's help the principals, right? Because a lot of times it stops there. Like, oh, you're not doing enough. So let's help build those systems and help support the individuals who are responsible. So I love that. And you're absolutely right. Corporate America is surprised that there are individuals who don't need bathroom or lunch breaks. We just somehow continue to operate.
We don't have to eat.
We just
Wow.
We don't need water.
Put it out there, Charles. Put it on out there.
we plug ourselves up in the closet, come back out, we do it the next day.
A great black.
John, are you back?
Okay, can you guys
There we
hear
are.
John, your man.
So going back to the question, the biggest goal that I have for next year is getting into classrooms and the walkthrough process. I was hired the second day of school, so I didn't go through like the district professional development and all that stuff. And I couldn't officially do walkthroughs until like mid-November. So that put me behind the 8 ball. Yes, I was able to go into classrooms and visit and see what was going on, but I couldn't go through the formal process of walkthroughs and coaching and that type of thing. So that's what I'm looking most forward to, is being able to be in classrooms early in the school year, to have those conversations with teachers, to work alongside them to make sure that our students are getting the instruction that they deserve.
Yes.
That is a commendable goal. That is a commendable goal. I'm so proud of you. My goal that I did not get to complete this year was I have a guiding coalition with my staff, and this year I've created a parent advisory coalition. And the purpose of that is there's so many things that teachers are required to do to make sure that kids learn. We've identified what are those essential behaviors closest to that work. And then below that cut score, I formed this parent advisory coalition that's going to help us address some of those things that we know need to be addressed, but doesn't necessarily have to be addressed by the classroom teacher. So we started the year great, but toward the end of the year, life just happened. We did not get an opportunity to do to follow through on some of the things that we said that we want to do. So this is what you do. When you set a goal and you didn't have an opportunity to finish it, you identify what the causal factor is. And the great thing is, if you didn't get it done in the 21-22 school year, you have the 22-23 school year. So we've just moved that goal over. And what I've done this year is I have a master calendar that I created at the beginning of the school year. So every date is kind of like my playbook. Every date and everything that we intend to do, we put on our master calendar. And so this year, that Parent Advisory Coalition, we've been very strategic and intentional, and those dates and agendas and items are already on our master calendar. And then the other thing that I want to tell principals is this. It's like Bethany was saying, principals have to manage so many things. The best thing that you can do to meet some of these goals is to take yourself out of the equation. So I'm really creating a leadership structure where if something happens and I can't be there, it was a new baby and I was kind of building an airplane in the sky. So it really depended a lot on me. So the next layer that I'm doing next year is there's a leadership structure where if something happens to my calendar or not, we have our objectives, we have our goals, we have our activities, and there's a leadership structure, and parents will be empowered to continue that work and then just fill me in on the back end.
I love that.
Yeah, I was going to say kudos to you. That is huge, and I absolutely understand that feeling. Like if I'm not there, then it doesn't happen, and that is not a good feeling to have.
No.
So there's two within our building, I think, for us. The first one is MTSS. That was really our big focus this year, of really building a formalized structure for that. Of how do we identify students? How are we making sure that they are receiving the interventions needed, and then monitoring their progress? And so we're not done with that yet. So that's more of an ongoing. So that's definitely something we want to continue to tighten and to improve. And so I think that's a school-wide one. More of a personal one that I want to do for my staff is really this idea of personalized learning. And I know I've talked about this before, and it's still something I'm trying to nail down, is that, again, we're a small staff. And so it's really hard to say, here's our PD that applies to a bunch of you, because, well, when you only have one class per grade, it's like, well, sometimes you need very specified, very targeted PD. And so I would love next year for each of my staff members to be on their own trajectories, figuring out what it is that they need in order to be successful. Of course, addressing those things that we need school-wide, but definitely saying, this is what I need in order to be the best person that I can be for my students. And so those are my two, MTSS and personalized PD for our staff.
Excellent. Well, now we move into my favorite part of the show. Another favorite part. Really, they're all my favorite parts, but this is like one of my favorite parts. Ideas that stick. And these are time. You stop doing that, Charles. I see what you're doing. You stop mocking me. It's that time when we kind of take what is our nugget from our discussion today. It is kind of, what was finished strong, unfinished business. What are some things that I can do to make that happen? So my idea that stick, I'm going to jump in first. What is your top priority at your school or organization before you head off on vacation? Like I said, my teachers and my students have already gone, and I started before they left, and in communication now. It is front load everything. Teachers are going to be fresh over this summer. They're going to be reflective. So I try to front load everything. I identify the who, who is who, what are your assignments, and I try to define the do for them. This is the seat on the bus you have for next year. These are the things that are the priorities, and you have to paint with a very vivid picture of, this is what I want this position to accomplish. This is what I want you to accomplish in this grade level, in this assignment. To give teachers an opportunity to reflect. So when they come in, they're not so overwhelmed when they come back to August with all this stuff thrown at them. But I try to front load as much and give as much information as possible now, so they have time to digest, and they can come to work that first day with a plan of action in their mind. Bethany, what's your idea that sticks?
My busy season is really starting to kick in because I work at a professional development site. So teachers will be on campus all summer. We just started this past week, and had lots of teachers on campus from all over. And so one of the biggest things for me is to be sure that we directly align that professional learning to the needs of our teachers. And so we have a survey that we push out in the spring, and we've really honed in on that. And of course, some of the biggest worries of teachers right now are social emotional learning and trauma, student behavior, and engagement. And so, because we have so many students that are just, disengaged for lots of different reasons. And so, teachers really want to have to walk away with strategies and things that they can, implement immediately when school starts. So I feel like it's going to be a summer of empowerment for them, because right now I feel like teachers feel so, they feel helpless because there's so much they cannot control, but that's coming down from the top, or just society in general. But there is a lot they can control in their classroom, and that starts with their environment that they create physically and emotionally, and that felt safety that we want to instill in each student. And so, starting with that and having teachers feel focus in on what truly can change and evolve in their classroom in spite of the things going on outside of their classroom, district, state, nationally, and not get overwhelmed with those things, but hone in on their students and what they can do to make them, get to that next space, whatever it is. And those goals look different for every student, and the learning looks different for every teacher. So Charles, just like what you were saying, that personalization of PD is just so important. We can provide we can provide some overall general information, but following up with those teachers after the fact and finding out what needs to be tailored or tweaked to help them implement and get to that next growth level, to where it directly impacts their students in a big way, is the big concept of professional development. So,
excellent. John, ideas that stick.
For me, there's a lot of things that happen within the school building, but focusing in on just a few things that will have the biggest impact on student learning, I think that's where you get your most bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm. And after your first year, that is amazing. A lot of first timers, they want to attack everything, and they're going to save the world. But that is, you have to find those high leverage things, just like we have essential standards for kids, because they can't learn everything to perfection. But what are those big rocks? As adults, we have to do that same thing. What are those big essential behaviors? That's awesome. Charles?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I used to do that too. I used to run around like my hair was on fire, and then look what happened. So be careful. So for me, it's categorize then prioritize. We're just about done. And I'm really big into kind of like categorizing things and saying, okay, where are we at? So like, what are the things that must be done this year, right? Before I walk out of the building. Technically, my last day is June 30th, even though I never really stop. Like, what are the things that need to be done now, right? Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that can be done next year? So maybe if I find myself with some time, I can work on those things over the summer, when my wife is sleeping and she doesn't get angry with me. And then the other part is, what are the things that should wait till next year? Like, as we were saying earlier, like, this may be on my plate, but you know what? This thing should really wait until next year. So categorize and then prioritize, so that way you aren't stressing yourself out and you're actually able to get things done. I think so many times we have such a large to-do list, and because we're not prioritizing, right, we're spending so much time running around, doing, right, and then we look up and we really haven't accomplished very much. And so that's my plan of action for this upcoming summer. So I know as we begin to close out, I just want to say thank you. It's been an amazing conversation, but I would be remiss. We are talking about summer. We're talking about how do we go into the summer, making sure that we are set up for next year as well. And I know I touched on it a little bit earlier, but we did write a whole book on this, and so it is our shameless plug. And I mean, we can. It's our show. It's our book, right? We can do those sorts of things.
It would be a shame if we didn't.
So if you haven't done so already, make sure that you go and pick up a copy of the book. You can find it all over on Amazon, and it is a great read to get you started, for the summer or as you are launching into your new school year. If you want to start off, it is designed 40 weeks in mind, so one read per week, or you could digest the whole thing if you want. But definitely jump into that. So there we go. I'm sorry, Wallace. I know that was supposed to be plugged in other. He's like, wait, Charles, you're not in order here. So feel free to pick up the book, and of course, reach out to us if you want to dive a little bit deeper into there. But John, Bethany, I cannot thank you enough for being in this space, as well as everybody who joined us today. And again, just because this conversation is ending here, as Mac alluded to earlier, doesn't mean that it needs to be over. I would encourage you to join our Facebook group, find us on Twitter, and continue these conversations, because we want to continue learning and growing with all of you. And of course, make sure that you connect with us on June 18th. So June 18th is Juneteenth. And we're going to have a conversation about the 2%, right? The population, the percentage of Black male educators, and what we could do to encourage more individuals to pursue a field in education. And so please make sure that you are joining us on June 18th. And before we end, and I know this may not have been there, so what are your plans for the summer? So just we'll do a quick round robin. What are your plans? What would you like to do this summer? I know we already talked about going to Louisville. So Mac, what is something that you're planning to do this summer?
I'm going to disconnect. I have about 10 days on my schedule that I have blocked out, and I don't want, if I don't have internet connection, I am fine. If I don't get a text, I am fine. And I'm going to tell people, don't worry about me. It's about 10 days. I'm going to do some island hopping, and I'm going to get a tan, and I'm going to drink coconut water out of the coconut. And I am just going to disconnect from everything around me and reconnect with myself and my family.
Very nice. Very nice. Get that purple time, buddy. Purple time.
Yes. It's all purple for about 10 days.
All right, John, what about you?
We will be moving our daughter into college this summer.
Congrats.
Thank you. And hopefully spending a few days sitting on the beach somewhere.
Yes.
Those are my plans.
Nice. What school is she going to?
She is going to LSU.
Nice. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
At least it's in the SEC.
There you go.
I was going to say boiler. Oh, never mind. That's mine. Bethany, I know that you have a busy summer getting all of our staff ready for the next school year, but I'm sure you have something lined up.
Yeah. Well, something exciting is I have a son who lives about 3.5 hours away, and he's a teacher and a coach in another district. And he actually was hired in our hometown. So he's moving home this summer. So he's looking at buying a house and, really making his first huge life purchase and change. So I look forward to supporting him in that and having him closer to home. But then we do send off our sophomore who goes to college in Georgia at Valdosta State. So it will be bringing one home and sending one away.
Excellent.
Very nice. Yeah, we'll be at the ISTE conference at the end of this month. So my family, my wife and I love New Orleans, but my family has not ever been. So we're going to I'm just taking the entire family. And so I've extended that time frame for us to spend some time down in New Orleans together so they could see the magic that is New Orleans. And then just really spending time with family. My grandson started playing baseball. And so being able to watch him, baseball is my favorite sport. And so spending time with him and my daughters before my baby just graduated from high school as well. And she's going to be heading off to the Culinary Institute of America in upstate New York. And the other one's going to be going back to Purdue. So, just spending some time together before everybody departs again. So I hope all of you have an amazing summer. I am looking forward to, and we would love to hear your plans. If you're not in the space, let us know. What are your plans? Because maybe we might borrow some of them. But thank you again, everyone, for being here. Mac, any last words before we sign off?
It's just always great to be here. Thank you, Bethany. Thank you, John, for being here. Charles, it's always a pleasure. Can't wait to the 18th where we can meet and have another hearty, robust conversation.
All right. We'll see you all then. Take care, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for watching and learning with us at SchoolRubric with educators from across the globe. For more access to articles, magazines, podcasts, live episodes, our international school directory, courses, and more, visit us at schoolrubric.org. Thank you.